Office Paul. Sarah looked at the bunch of files in front of her and threw her head back tiredly. It was late night. She couldn't even see the people on the street any more from glass wall of her office cabin. She glanced at the clock, and it was past 1 a.m. She took off her glasses and rubbed her forehead tiredly. She was working since morning like a robot. At the end of the day, all her energy had left her body and her eyes were screaming for sleep. These are the files you must read and sign, miss. We have to send it back till morning, her personal assistant Mr. Williams said. He was a man in his late 50s, a very much loyal and trusted. Okay, give me some time. She sighed and wore her glasses again. Great, now it will take 1 more hour. She huffed. Have you eaten something, miss? He asked. He always asks that. He was trying to make her life easy as much as it could, for which she was very grateful. She looked up and gave him a quick nod, again looking down at her file. She wasn't too much of a talker, more like introvert you can say, or maybe she forced herself to become like that. Sarah is still trying to figure that out. Yes, I did. She lied again. In all this busy day she hardly got time to eat anything. She hasn't eaten anything since this morning. Mr. Williams looked at her and shook his head disappointingly. He knows that she didn't but she never complained or nagged about it. He was feeling very bad looking at her condition. Sarah was a beautiful woman, with amber eyes, perfect curves, height and tan skin. A beautiful, happy and friendly woman, but people says right that time changes everything. And that's what exactly happened with Sarah. At the age of 25 she had few gray hair, dark circles under her eyes. She was losing her curves due to starving herself for work. Instead of going out, dating and living a prime time of her age fully, she has drawn herself into work. Sarah never desired this life, but after her brother's accident, he were in coma. She has one more sister, Natasha, but that brainless bimbo knows nothing about anything, so all responsibilities fell on her shoulders. She had to manage her father's group of companies alone. Her father was getting sick day by day, so she couldn't bother him about anything. She was working hard to save and hold up her father's legacy. Still, that old man wasn't satisfied. He was mourning for his half-dead son. Even after so much hard work, she wasn't getting any praising from her so-called father. At the end of the day, she consoles herself saying she is just taking her responsibilities. When her brother recovers, she will be free from everything. Being a boss and handling the companies wasn't her dream. She wanted to become a writer, but had to sacrifice her ambitions because of her father. In all this mess, she had lost her real self. Where is the girl who used to laugh and smile all day? The girl who made others laugh now? Her own smile has got stolen. Done, Mr. William? Is there anything else to that I need to pay attention? She asked, praying that he should give her clean chit. No, miss. That's all, he declared. She thanked God and stood up from chair. Her high heels were killing her. Finally she got rid of them and wore her comfy sleepers. Let's go home, please, she said, walking ahead of him, and he followed her. Sarah was dying to feel her bed beneath her. All she wanted to do was sleep for some good time. Even her empty stomach didn't bother her anymore. She quickly get in her car and Mr. Williams started driving. Your father called me this morning, her PA announced, grabbing her attention. And she asked coldly. Her father never called to ask her well-being, only to see if she has got the deals and how much profit they made this month. Her whole life, she has craved for his loving words, but that man is made up of stone. Just because I am his daughter and not son, he treats me like this. Well, I am doing everything which my brother would have done. R.N.T.I. She was still in hope that one day her father will pay her back and look at her proudly. They never really talked, and their conversation got cut completely when her mother died. They lived under one roof but never crossed each other's path, or should she say, ignored each other completely. And he wants to have dinner with you, her assistant said. This is the first time he has demanded something like this. Thousands of questions gathered in her mind. Did he got my substitute who can manage everything? Or as just for some deal? Maybe Natasha has caused some serious problem this time. It's better if he has something to set me free. I am tired of my colorless life. Okay, that's all she said, not wanting to talk much. She was again engulfed by her thoughts when car came to halt. What happened? She asked, noticing that they haven't reached their destination. I think I should check car. It might take some time, he said apologetically and stepped out. She threw her head back frustratingly. Great. It was suffocating her in the car. She stepped out and decided to take a walk while her assistant fixed the car. She walked down the empty alley to feel the cold and fresh air. Sarah was still lost in her thoughts, but a painful whimper brought her back to life. She followed the direction of sound and quickly hid herself behind the wall. Some men were beating a man who was on the floor. all were in black suits, built like tanks. She could hear the man begging and screaming for his life, which frenzied her on the spot. One man came ahead from the group. She couldn't see his face due to dim street lights. It was the most abandoned place of the city, and she was aware that crimes do happen here. His eyes were cold gray. He looked young and handsome, but she couldn't see the evilness on his face. How can someone be so handsome yet so cruel? He was the man, maybe the leader. That's what she thought. That handsome criminal pulled out a knife and sliced the man's throat. Sarah was about to scream, but a large hand got wrapped around her mouth and muffled her voice. Officer's Pav. It's me, miss. Her assistant whispered. She looked at him while he dragged her towards the car and literally threw her inside. He quickly started the car and drove away from the scene. Sarah took deep breaths to gather herself. Her heart was beating rapidly. Mr. W. William, we should call the cops. She panicked, but he was totally calm, like nothing has happened. Miss, you should relax. He gave her the water bottle, which she quickly took and gulped it down. We can't do anything. They are mafias and cops can't do shit about it. Just forget what you saw. It's better for everyone. She looked at him in disbelief. But how can we just forget about it, miss? We can't do anything. It's better you stay away from mafia people, he said nonchalantly and pulled in front of her mansion. He turned around and gave her very serious expressions. By now you know how this world works. I know you are smart and want to do anything that will get you in a trouble. Sarah nodded reluctantly and stepped out of the car. Her mind was again and again drifting towards the crime she just witnessed. How that handsome devil sliced that man's throat, and how his blood splattered on the dirty ground. How his eyes were so cold, like he didn't feel anything. Like he is not a human. Well, of course he isn't. Because no human can kill someone like that. Mr. William is right. I should stay away from this matter. If he is really mafia, then I am sure he has connections and cops can't do anything. She shook her head and entered the house. Home was just a word. That feeling was nowhere near her heart or mind. For Sarah, it was just a place where she sleeps. She leaves this place before sunrise and every day comes home at late night. She has now forgotten the faces of maids and guards of this house. She has no idea what happens in the mansion all day, what her father do to spend his time, what her sister is currently doing in her life. It was 6 months. She has visited her brother in hospital, who is still in coma. The loneliness was nowhere to be found. She felt stranger to this house and to the people staying in it. Sarah headed upstairs, ignoring the guards. Her father always keep the security tight, and she doesn't know the reason behind it. Why that old man needs so much security. Only thing he does is sit and bother everyone. As soon as she entered her room, she threw herself on the bed, not even bothering to take off her slippers. Her eyes started drifting off, but knock on the door brought her back. The head maid, Martha, came in with a plate of food, and with sweet motherly look on her face. Martha placed the plate aside and made her sit. Sarah's eyes were half closed as she sat there, and Martha fed her as much as she could. How you always manage to read me, Martha? Sarah asked, throwing herself back on the bed. You are very easy to read, my child. I know how to take care of you, she replied, tucking Sarah inside the bed sheets. Like every day, Sarah asked her one question. Why this maid always takes care of me when my own family don't even have a time to look at me? Martha never answered that question. Whenever Sarah asked that question, Martha just smiled sadly and leaves. Good night, my child. That soothing words worked like a lullaby, and she embraced the sleep. After all the hectic work, her mind was exhausted. Sarah woke a jolt when she dreamt about that horrified scene which she witnessed last night. Same cold gray eyes, blood, and scream. She wiped the sweat of her face and desperately gulped down the water which was on nightstand. She glanced at the clock, and it was 4 in the morning. She only slept for 3 hours. She refused to go back to sleep after her nightmare and decided to get ready for the day. She did her morning business and wore her office clothes. Martha gave her breakfast, which she ate in her room, not wanting to talk with any of her family member and make her day worse. Sarah took out the pills from her drawer and gulped them down. Depression and anxiety were her only best friends. She was severely suffering from that and getting therapy. She wasn't sure how long she will manage to stay sane. Workload was too much, and even after doing her best, she wasn't getting any love from anyone. At the beginning, she tried to ignore it, but how long she will manage to stay without love? She wasn't feeling complete. After all, she was a human who needs love and care. Martha was the only one who provides little bit comfort and love. Otherwise, nothing were encouraging in her boring life. Never in her whole life, she thought that lack of love and affection could damage a person like this. It makes you feel so alone and abandoned. But when she experienced it herself, then she understood how does it actually feel like Sarah spent her whole day in working and attending meetings. She wasn't waiting for this night at all. Still, she has no choice. She knows that this night won't be easy. Something bad will definitely happen. She head towards the home where her father wished to have dinner with her. She didn't bother to look presentable, neither she cares. When she entered the dining hall, she saw her father and his friend, who was his advisor and personal assistant too. But Natasha was nowhere to be seen.